that was so eye-opening to me because I was just like, that can happen so easily. Like you're always searching for what's next. And then when you reach like the pinnacle of like what you're trying to accomplish, it can really leave you feeling lost.
Welcome to Social Kick. We got the whole crew dressed in purple. Luke Paddington, Dr. John Mullen. I guess we missed the memo. Reagan, you're normally
You
in purple.
did.
What's going on? How are you?
Purple or pink?
Yeah, it's
I'm
your day.
great. Yeah, yeah. Thank you guys for having me. Always enjoy chatting with you. So excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we want to start off first. Para is going on right now, and we had a follower who asked us. This one's from Caviaro 2020 was asking which para swimmer would you most want to have coffee with. It made me think about like, yeah, how much have you been following the Paralympics and anything that stood out to you so far?
I would want to get coffee with Ali Truitt because she's a mutual friend of mine. She's really close with the Walshes and Kate Douglas. And so I know her story very well. And I feel like I know her through the Walshes and Kate, but I've never gotten to actually spend time with her and meet her in person and talk to her. So I think I'd want to do that because I think her story is incredible too. And she just won a silver medal yesterday. Very
Yeah.
exciting.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I've been keeping up with it on Instagram. Jessica just won her 30th Paralympic medal. 30th Paralympic medal or 30th gold? I can't even keep it straight anymore, but she has like she's collecting them like infinite crazy. So
crazy.
yeah, it's been exciting to follow along. Yeah, I enjoy it. But yes, I'd want to get coffee with Ali Truitt.
Yeah, have you connected with any of the para athletes in Colorado Springs over the years too?
Um, Not as deeply as I would like to be honest with you. I feel like we see each other on deck, but our practices never overlap, honestly. Um, and we see each other in the dining hall sometimes, but when they live there full time, they're very good at like doing their own thing and sticking with their routine. And we're the people who kind of come in like once a year for a month and disrupt their routine and make everything busier and more crowded. So yeah, we kind of like step on their toes sometimes, which I feel bad about because like that's their space. But no, definitely see them, get to watch their practices from afar sometimes. And that's been really, really incredible and eye-opening to see. But no, I would love to build closer relationships, but I don't think I've really had a good opportunity to.
Yeah, I think I crossed paths with Jessica once at the pool in Colorado Springs. This is how long she's been swimming. We just talked about like the medal haul, and
Yeah.
I remember like hopping in the hot tub, and I think she was going the other way. One of the last times that I was in Colorado Springs training when I was competing, which was a long time ago. So she's been doing it for a really long time. It's
So
just so nuts.
impressive. Yeah.
Hey, you're back into the swing of things, looking swole, coming off a lift today. It's so
Looking
crazy.
shiny.
Yeah. Hey, what? If you're not sweating, you're not trying.
Exactly.
See, Luke's never trying. So what? It's funny for us to like sit here and still be, talking about Paralympics and like still in, Paris fever a bit, and then you're like fully back into the swing of things. It seems like so. Yeah. Where? What's it been like getting back into things?
I'm barely getting back into things, to be honest with you. I'm here in Tempe right now, hanging out with ASU people. And I've been going to weight sessions and going to pool sessions. We're not doing any doubles or anything, but I'm more so going for like social hour and not to distract anyone because I know that everyone there like is gearing up for the season and has a job to do, but like I'm just trying to like visit with my friends and hang out with my friends. So I'm coming with a good attitude, but like if I'm ripping like 45 seconds in a 50 kick fast long course, I'm not too upset about it. Like I'm just kind of here for the vibes right now. And I want to, cheer people on if they're killing it in practice. And like, I want to be a part of things. And the coaches understand that too. They've been great at like welcoming me in and just letting me, kind of be a part of things, but not have to like, go all in yet because like you said, we are still kind of in Paris mode. Like the game's just ended and I'm not trying to get back into anything too early because the last thing I want is burnout. I love swimming, but like I'm really not trying to like just dive headfirst back into things anymore. I'm more so doing this for social hour, like I said, and then I have World Cup in like just over a month and a half. So I'm trying to be in decent shape for that. So that's my methodology behind this.
Yeah, a lot of people have that post-Olympic let down, right? Or they don't know
Yeah.
what to do, or if they had disappointing swims, they focus on that. Or sometimes they jump and do a dive 50 and do a best time in practice like 2 weeks after the games as well.
Yeah.
What's important? Have you guys discussed that with Bob about what you should do for these from August 2nd to September 5th? Did you guys discuss that? And was it a deliberate attempt to you to discover the love of swimming? I don't know.
Honestly, yeah, no, nothing
No,
specific
no,
that we talked
yeah.
about with Bob. He was just kind of like, take your time off because you deserve it. This has been a brutal year. Do your thing. And basically I'll see you when I see you. Like, be in no hurry to get back into things. Like keep in contact, keep in touch, let me know what you're doing. And I just had a call with him yesterday, to like update him on like how things have been going for me here. But no, not too much because he's pretty good at like giving us a pretty long leash and being like, you know what to do. Like you're an adult. Like just trust your body and trust yourself, but don't overdo things too quickly, I think. Is his message without actually like verbally giving that message, if that makes sense. I think him not saying, all right, be back in Austin like August 22nd, let me know that like, okay, like I can really take my time this fall and like relax and take a deep breath and not feel like I have to go into things immediately.
What did you text him when you found out that he gave a 400 social kick in your absence?
Okay. He actually gives social. Okay, he never like writes out social kick. So when I saw that, I'd never seen him really like write it on a paper before. Maybe like once or twice under like in my time under him. But we have casual kick a decent amount in warm up or in cool down. And he doesn't get mad at us if we like buddy up on our kicks, like if we like kick next to someone. So I've done it a decent amount, I have to say. Even if he doesn't call it social kick, he calls it casual kick. We can still sneak it in there and he doesn't yell at us. So I did think that was awesome though, like because a 400 casual kick, especially if it's long course, that's a hefty chunk of time. That's like close to 10 minutes. So that's pretty generous, but maybe I'll get to do it again once I get out there, but we'll see.
I remember when, it came out that Bob was transitioning to Texas and it was, shocked everyone, came out of nowhere. But now that the dust has kind of settled, it seems like there's pretty good vibes on all fronts with everyone at Texas, the people still at ASU, you still going and training, like you said, seeing your friends and all that. Is that kind of the experience you've been having and the transition's been going pretty smooth?
I wouldn't say smooth. I'd say it is now. I think I'm a pretty emotional person. And so I had a really difficult time with it at first, but I also understood like if I was in Bob's position, I'd want to do the exact same thing. So there's no hard feelings. It was just like a shoot, like I finally found my place, like Stanford didn't work out for me. And I really took a chance on ASU and then I ended up falling in love with it. And it was so incredible. And to then have that, this is like a harsh way to put it, but like taken away from me. That sounds dramatic, but like when the news first came out, that's how it felt. I was like, well, shoot, like I had this great thing going and now it's coming to an end so quickly. Like this is so unfortunate. But I came to terms with it eventually. And I do think it helped my relationship with Bob. And I think it helped us get closer and like more comfortable with each other. Like, I don't know. I just think it helped us relax more with each other. And now I think I'm not afraid to be more honest with him about things or show different sides of my personality with him. Whereas before I was kind of like a board. Like I was just really like straightforward with him and like was kind of like a yes man with him too. And it's not that I'm not, like I still have so much respect for Bob, but also I feel like I'm able to speak my mind more with him, whereas before I was too afraid to. And I think he appreciates that. I think he doesn't like when people don't say what they're feeling and are honest with him because then he doesn't quite know how to read them. At least that's my take on it. So I think it's been good for us. But yeah, I'd say now the transition is pretty good. Like I'm welcoming it. I have my apartment in Austin all set up. My roommate Lindsay Looney, she's moved in. She's been there for a little while now. But yeah, I think in this first part of the new quad, I just want to like soak up all this time in Tempe that I can, just because I've made all of my best friends here. And I have like multiple friends in my apartment complex now. Like one of my best friends, Erin, lives across the hall from me now. She just moved in. And so I'm really trying to like capitalize on that and really soak it in and enjoy it. But at the same time, I'm also excited that like when things do ramp up and get more serious, I have a great new place to call home. Because I know that everyone who lives in Austin enjoys it. Like, I don't think I've heard one bad thing about Austin aside from the traffic, maybe. But so yeah, I know that this is a great place that I'm in right now, but I also know that I have really great things coming. And starting over is never easy, but thankfully I've done it many times now. And I'm glad that I'll have like Bob and Eric supporting me and guiding me through. So yeah, it'll all be fine. But yeah, it did take me a very long time to come to terms with and accept, to be completely honest with you. I hid it because I didn't really want to talk about it before the Olympics. But yeah, it was a very difficult spring for sure.
Yeah, like you said, and it wasn't easy. So sorry if I
Yeah.
took that
No,
as a,
you're
it might have
fine.
been smooth, but sometimes the hardest things are the best thing for you, or the hardest transitions, as you found out maybe from transitioning to from Stanford there down to ASU. So I guess looking back at it, how did that, like you said, it was a little bumpy, a little bit going into Paris. Did that affect Paris at all in a positive or negative way in your eyes?
No, yeah, not negatively at all. Because I mean, it's so cliche, but everything happens for a reason, right? And I would never want to put blame on like my performances in Paris on something like that, because I think that is such an excuse ultimately. And like life is so crazy. And I think that everyone who was in Paris this year probably experienced some crazy event that could have greatly derailed their performances, and they still persevered and did incredible. So no, it didn't affect it negatively or anything, but I don't know. I think it just made me appreciate home more and appreciate my friends more, because I was living out of a suitcase basically from March until now. So I think here's what I think it helped. I think I'm very routine oriented. I was pretty type A before this. And since living out of a suitcase for 5 months, not sleeping in my own bed, not being in charge of my meals for most of the time, never really knowing what was coming next, I think it really, really helped me learn to roll with the punches and accept things as they come and not freak out if routine gets changed. Whereas I totally used to do that. Like if I didn't have my whole day like planned out, and then if I didn't go through my day according to that plan, like if something went wrong, I would literally freak out and not know how to cope with it, just because I was like so type A. And like I always had to keep like my apartment spick and span, my car was always clean, like everything was just orderly. And now I don't know if it's for better or for worse, but I feel like now I don't really care as much about those things. And like if things go wrong, I'm like, well, like is what it is, like shoot. Which I do think is a blessing and a curse, because I think there's beauty in like having order, but there's also a lot of beauty in like obviously being able to go with the flow and take things as they come. So it's interesting. I think my personality has changed quite a bit through this whole process. So that's been kind of interesting to see and compare myself to like where I was last year, or like even in the winter compared to now. So I don't know, it's been fun, but no, it definitely didn't negatively impact anything. I would say it just like it was a neutral.
Mm. Yes, it seems as though we lost Brian for a second, so let's see what happens. But I have a question. You you show up in Paris at the airport to leave, check your bags in, and you're overweight. You're more than 50 pounds because you have these 5 heavy pieces of metal on you. These medals. Dude, congrats. Yeah. That's amazing. That's a hell of an experience. 2 gold, 3 silver. Wow. That's what a whole. Describe that feeling and leaving Paris and just having all that hard work pay off. You're now an 8-time Olympic medalist. Amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so here saying 8-time instead of 3-time, like after Tokyo, it's crazy how many I've collected when I look back and I think about it. And to now have 2 golds, 5 silvers, and a bronze is crazy. So it's cool to have some of each color. It's just everything that I always dreamed of as a kid. Yeah. And I think you really lose sight of that once you're getting older, and once you reach a certain level, you're always pushing for more and more and more and more and more. But I've really tried to change my mindset recently and be like, well, think about everything that I have accomplished, not everything that I have yet to accomplish. I think it's important to stay hungry, but I also don't want to never be satisfied, because then I'll never be content. And I think life's too short to feel that way. And also, I'm going to be in the sport for a very long time. Like, I'd love to be in the sport till I'm 30 years old and go to 2032. Like, who knows? Like, a billion things could happen between then and now that could change that. But in this moment, I'm like, if I could go until I'm 30, how incredible would that be? But that's also 8 years from now. And that's a long time to feel like potentially unsatisfied and upset all the time and like frustrated with my performance. So I prefer to err on the side of positivity just for my own sake mentally. But then on what you said about the airport was funny to me. I was going through security, and obviously my bag got stopped because they were all in my they were all my carry-on luggage. And because when metal goes through the metal detector, it goes off, and the dude like just takes out, I had like a sack of them, and he took them out, and he just looked at me and he was like, can I have your name? Like, congratulations. That was so sweet. So I appreciated that. It's like fun doing, like getting recognized in little ways like that. So that was a funny tidbit, but I don't know. That's how I feel about the whole situation with the medals and everything. I feel a lot of gratitude, and I feel very proud. And I always try to keep it in perspective of like, how would like 8-year-old me feel, like when I was just getting in this sport in like second and third grade, like how excited and proud would she be to know that I've accomplished the things that I've accomplished? And that helps me a lot with my mentality.
Well, what race would 8-year-old Regan be most proud of or happy with? Because with this past Olympics, you had, silvers and great swims in the 100 and 200 back, a best time in the 200 fly, your first gold on that mixed medley of being on the prelim relay, and then your first gold at finals on the medley with a world record. So which one is the 8-year-old most proud of?
Well, before you jump into that, I just want to say, I have all my trophies and medals, and we all have tons of them. I still have my 7 and under silver place trophy.
I love it.
It's my most proud one we have, because you have to remember where you came from. So thank you for that. It reminded me of what you said. Boom.
Of course. I love it. And my mom, she has a big display case of all my trophies from when I was a kid back in her living room at home. And she has one that looks very similar to yours, actually. And it's from when I was a 10 and under. And like you said, it's like a core memory, right? Like you remember receiving it so vividly. It's so special and important to you. Yeah. So I love looking at it. My mom loves keeping it. So thank you for saying that. But I lost my train of thought. Can you remind me what you said? Oh, favorite race. What would 8-year-old me be
most proud of? Thanks, Lord.
I think that she'd be most proud of the 200 fly, because I feel like every kid is terrified of that event. And when I was a young kid, like first starting swimming, I was not a good backstroker. I was fine at it, but by far my best stroke was butterfly. I was really great at the 100 fly, really good at the 50 fly. And backstroke was like my second best stroke. I was kind of afraid of backstroke for a while because I didn't like being on my back and not being able to see where the wall was. Even though we had flags, I still was like, I don't want to hit my head and get a concussion. That freaks me out. And so then I wouldn't like have my tempo be as high and move my arms as fast as I needed to, because I didn't want to like jam my hand into the wall. And we all know I'm a tempo girly. Like I don't have size on my side, so I need to have tempo. And so then that made me not very good at backstroke at a young age. But so I was a total butterflyer, but I was terrified of the 200 butterfly. I remember my first 200 fly. It was a short course one. And I spent like days before so afraid of it. And so I think to know that I have the American record in the 200 fly and am a 2-time silver medalist in the 200 fly, I'd be like, like, why did I decide to do that? Like, where did that come from? Because I was so scared of it. So I think she'd be proud, but I think she'd be like, wow, that came way out of left field. Like, who would have thought that she'd stick it out with that? So I think that's what it would be.
I remember my first 500 free, and when you were saying that, I remember having like the pep talk with I had a teammate's dad who was the timer behind the lane, and I was scared, and he was like, it's a walk in the park. And I'll never forget him telling me it's a walk in the park, and then being like, okay, it's fine, it's whatever, like at the time like 6-7 minutes of swimming. But what scares Regan today
about the 200 fly?
Or
in
just
general
like
about
swimming, like if you step up to a pool, I to me, like the transition from training short course yards, especially like when in a time where you weren't doing too much long course throughout the college season, let's say, and then you showed up behind the long course lanes to start like the beginning of long course season. That was always like, oh man, that's a long way.
Totally
but I
fair.
wonder from like from like training or even racing, like what intimidates you?
Training wise, Tuesday practices scare me. I walk in and I'm like nervous every day. They're long course and they're typically active rest or like long backstroke breaststroke sets. Like, oh my gosh, about a year ago, we did 4 200s breaststroke long course to send. And anyone who knows anything about me knows that I'm not a breaststroker at all. And that was horrible. And we basically spent like every Tuesday last year doing a big backstroke set followed by a big breaststroke set. And so that I was very scared of every week. I had some anxiety waking up every morning. I'd say Bob's Monday color sets also used to really scare me. I know they made me so much better, but I would also be nervous like all of Monday afternoon before heading to practice. So I think on a training basis, those 2 days freaked me out, but I know they made me so much better. And for competition, I think similar to what you guys said, yeah, because I feel confident racing like if I with a lot of repetition, right? So like you said, if in the college season you're not doing a lot of short course, then you go to a long course meet, I'll kind of walk behind the blocks and be like, wait, I have no idea how to do this. Like I don't remember like my strategy, my race plan. I don't remember what this feels like. Like how's this gonna go? Even when logically, like I know that I've done 100, 200 butterflies or 200 back or whatever race it is, and I'll be fine. Like this isn't going to be any different. I still will convince myself, like, what if something goes terribly wrong this time because I'm not as prepared as I like want to be. So I think that's what freaks me out. Sometimes the 200 fly will still really scare me. Like if I'm not feeling good in the water or like if I'm watching someone in the heat before me and they're like really having a rough go, because like that can happen to everyone, right? So that's no slam on them. But like if someone in the heat before me like really is struggling, I'll be like, oh shoot, like what if that's me? Like, oh no, like yeah. So sometimes I'll watch other people too and be like, oh gosh, like if they're struggling, what if I'm gonna struggle? So I have a ton of like little oddball things that like really freak me out in the sport, and I could probably go forever, but I'll stop there.
Good thing that doesn't happen to me when I train with you, Luke. You said you're not you said you don't have size on your side, but you keep hitting the gym, you know, you'll have some strength to be able to hold some more water and not take 68 strokes a lap, or how many do you take?
I don't even know. I should probably count my strokes more in 100 backstroke, but yeah, no, I try, right? I don't have too much strength, unfortunately. Like today, my friend came up to me, my friend Catherine, and she was like, oh my gosh, dude, we were cleaning today and I only got up to 87 pounds. And it's the first week of September. This is their second week of lift. Like we're not anywhere near like max territory. Like I think 87 pounds for week 2 of lift as a 5'4" girl, like she's tiny. I was like, that's pretty good. And then I was looking at my history, like my stats with cleaning. I've cleaned 87 pounds like twice ever. So when she said that to me, I was like, like I'm
Rude.
weak. Yeah. And she was saying it like, dude, that was terrible. Like I'm always like at least over 100 pounds. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I was like, oh. So that was like a fun way to get humbled this morning at 7 a.m. But yeah, so I don't have too much strength, I guess. But
so what's something that you think is so nonchalant that your friends would feel that way about? You know, you're like repping out like 105's long course backstroke or something, and they're like, yeah, cool, Regan. Like I can't ever go 120.
I don't even know about in the pool because these girls on this team train so lights out, like really humble me. But I'd say what John was just doing, I'm good at body weight stuff, so I can rep out pull-ups pretty decently.
How many pull-ups can you do?
Yeah, pull-ups. My max is like 18. So that I think that's better than cleaning 80 pounds. I think that's like more impressive comparison wise. But I know like Haley Flickener, for example, was in like the high 20s. So I know that I'm not the best ever. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of that, Max. But yeah, I'm better at body weight stuff than weight stuff for sure. So yeah, maybe something like pull-ups, but no lower body stuff. That's for sure. I can't do anything.
Wow. I remember having college teammates who couldn't even do a single pull-up. So, I mean.
Really?
Yeah. It's just
all
like,
right, thank you. Thank you for the ego boost.
Everybody's got their own strengths.
That's true.
Yeah, what were we going
to
say?
But I also remember training with a Stanford flyer at the time, Jason Dunford, and we lifted weights together. I couldn't believe how weak Jason was. And this guy came fifth in Olympics in 100 fly. You know, like it's interesting how that translates to the water, and especially for small folks, you know.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
When you get stronger in the weight room, what race does it benefit you the most? Is it your back? Is it your fly? What do you feel? I feel stronger now. Is your back, your fly, or I don't know?
I think everything, to be honest with you, not to give you such a lame general answer, but so I get my weights from Keenan Robinson, who works for USA Swimming, and he is so like big brain, like he thinks so hard about how every exercise connects to specific movements in the water. And he knows that I'm interested in learning about it. And so he isn't doing it now. Like the lifts he's written for me now, he doesn't have explanations. But typically during the season, with every exercise, he'll attach a note and he'll be like, oh, this is important for like your pull down, or like this is really important for your catch, or this is really great for like simulating off the blocks, or like your dolphin kicks, or getting off of a wall quickly on a flip turn. So with every single exercise, he'll be like, oh, hey, like this is how this translates into the water, which I really like, because I don't like doing things if I don't see the point of them. That's how I lose motivation really fast, like really fast. And he knows that. And so, yeah, he always has a purpose to what I'm doing, which I appreciate. And so it's fun to read about like what's connected to what.
Yeah. Speaking of what's connected to what, I mean, yeah, you broke the world record in the 100 backstroke this year, but you also went 203, 200 fly, which is like a big chunk. What do you think has led to that fly progression?
Gosh, I think a lot of it is the sets that Bob has us do. I mean, I think I've obviously made a lot of strides in the weight room. I'd never done lifting for real, really, until I got to ASU.
Wow.
Because I did a lot of like body weight and CrossFit stuff in high school with my personal trainer in high school. And then at Stanford, we had a very short amount of time to lift my freshman year. We'd get out of practice at like 8 or 8:15. And then we only had until 9 a.m. to lift. And so we had to get through an entire lift card, and our trainer would explain the whole card to us before we start. So by the time we started lift, it was like 8:25 or 8:30, and we had to be out of there by 9. And I'm very slow. Like I like to move through things pretty slowly. And so I could never finish my lift ever at Stanford. It just wasn't quite what worked for me. And so I don't think I made any strides with strength that year. And now then in 2022 and 2023, and then this part of 2024, there's no time limit in the weight room at ASU, and I can take however long I need. So I'm always in there for like an hour plus. Many days I'd get up to like an hour 20, hour 30. And so you guys, I lost my train of thought again. What was the question?
I was asking about the 200 fly, and like, what do you think led to the?
Yeah. See, and here I am on some crazy tangent. Let me veer back to where we need to be.
No, it's okay, because I actually love the time in the weight room. I mean, I used to take my time in the weight room, and I didn't like the pacing of that, so I can understand how that affected things. But what do you think did ultimately lead to some of that? Like, what can you connect to the butterfly progression?
Yeah. I think so. That's one half of it for sure. Just, I think, increasing strength. And then Bob loves butterfly sets, and he loves repetition of them. And I've done so many like horribly hard butterfly sets under him that just give me so much confidence. Cause I think before Bob in a 200 fly, my mentality was like, okay, survive. Like, how can I get through this as smoothly as possible and like not die? Because I literally, there was no strategy. I wasn't like, okay, take it out like fairly strong and then be able to like come home hard. It was literally like, nope, just like keep a medium pace the whole time and like see how well, see how well that does for you. And then under Bob, I finally had the confidence to be like, okay, like I know how many strokes I want to take each 50. I know how many kicks I want to take off each wall. I know how I want to push the tempo on each lap too. Like, I just think through repetition with him and practice, I was then able to like gain that confidence. Whereas before it was literally like I was walking into each race blind. So yeah, I think that's been the biggest change.
We ask a lot of guests the hardest world record, and Lou's 201.81 is often like listed as the hardest world record, the one that's going to last the longest. But you and Summer are starting to creep down there, getting in the 203s.
Yeah.
What is most impressive though about that world record as someone that's trying to also get down into that 201 range?
Yeah, to be completely honest with you, I wish I even knew like what the splits of that world record were. I don't, because I always looked at it as so like, I don't know. I don't want to be unfair, but I was just like, no one's even touching that. Like, it seems odd to me. And like a very random world record. So I tried to just avoid it. And I guess this is maybe going back to the like, I want to be content and satisfied with myself and not always feel like I'm not doing enough. So, right, like my best time for a long time was like 206, 207, which I think is very impressive. It is a very impressive time, the 200 fly as a woman. But that's 5-6 seconds off the world record, which then makes 206, 207 sound so unbelievably pedestrian. When in reality, the fastest that most people have ever really gone is 204, 02, or 3, right? Like very few people have ever hit 204, 02, or 3. So then that makes 206 or 207, when put in that perspective, seem much more impressive. So yeah, I never even really paid attention to it just because I was like, what the heck even is this? Like, how's anyone ever going to touch this? I do think if anyone were to break it, it would be Summer. I think she has a lot of potential in her and she's so young. And she has so much more strength to build. And I think fly is so much about strength. And so I just see so much potential, more continued potential in that event for her. But yeah, I would agree. I think that's for sure the hardest one, just because no one's even touched it. Whereas people I feel like have really knocked on the door at a lot of other world records for a long time. So it's a fascinating one. It's a head scratcher for me. But I don't even know much about it, to be honest with you.
Well, here are the splits. So 27.4, 30.6. So out in, what is that?
58.0?
58.0, and then 32.0, 31.8.
31.8.
Yep.
When you say it out like that, it doesn't sound that outlandish. But fly is always so deceiving. Like, oh my gosh, I feel like it can be just as easy to come home in like a 32.0 as it is to come home in like a 34.5. At least in my experience, I'm so all over the place with my last 50. So yeah, when you say it, it sounds much more doable than the overall time actually seems. So that's interesting.
Well, it should be, because you're breaking it down by half a second, each 50, and that's kind of how you approach making progressions in swimming. Is we look at a 100 race or a 200 race, and if you drop a half second in a race off your best time, like that's a huge accomplishment. Well, that's only like a tenth or 2/10 per 50, and to most other people it's just like not much, but we're talking about really marginal gains. I also bet Luziga couldn't do 18 pull-ups though, so you do have that.
Thank you. I'll take it.
Let's forget about times. When I think about Regan Smith Olympics, I just think about some freaking epic races. Like, you raced the best they've ever been, because you are the best they've ever been in some of your races. So your battles with Kaylee, Summer, and to me, what was really epic was the 100 backstroke. So those who are listening, the 4 fastest 100 backstrokers in the world not only race each other in the final of the Olympics, but we're next to each other. And we're like artistic swimmers going out at the walls and in tandem. And we really enjoyed that race. It was such a gutsy race by all 4 of you with the strategies. Talk us through that particular race. Did you, like you saw Kylie go out. Kaylee was coming back. And Catherine was on fire this meet. Talk about that 100 backstroke for you. Did you feel the impact of that history? At least I saw history.
Yeah, thanks. I think my only qualm is I wish, and I know she had her hands full with other events, but I wish Molly had done it too, because then that would have been all 557s, and like how incredible would that have been? But I completely understand she had other things that she needed to do. So I in backstroke typically like to kind of roll my eyes back into my head or like keep them closed, because I can see people peripherally. And if I start paying attention to what's going around me, I get lost and I can't stay within myself. And ultimately I have no control over what the people next to me are doing. So I sort of view it as like, then what's the point of focusing on them? Especially when it's in a race like backstroke, where like I'm giving it my all no matter what. And like, if I can see people around me, it doesn't really matter. Like if I can find another gear and push more, because I'm always just like balls to the wall in backstroke. Like there's like no more to give. And there's also, I think, a turning point where I do too much and I try too hard, and then I start to spin and I go slower. It's like I'm expending more energy and not going as fast. I think that's happened to me many times when I'm seeing people around me and I'm like trying to fight and either pass them or keep up with them or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think I've learned that I have to literally just have blinders on. And if that means closing my eyes, then shit, that means I'm closing my eyes. And so I started to do that because swimming outside in Tempe has made me very good at staying straight in my lane, even when the sun's beating down on you. So I think through that, I've gotten really good at being like, okay, like focus on me, focus on my race plan. Do not get caught up in what people are doing around you, because that's your kryptonite and that's how you're going to lose. Like the race is over if you're focusing on someone else, at least in my case, in backstroke specifically. So I had a plan. I was trying to tap into my strategy a bit from the 100 butterfly, because I don't have speed in butterfly. We all saw that at trials, right? Like Tori and Gretchen had me by a body and a half at the 50 meter mark, but I was able to come home and close because I have, that endurance, I have that back half speed. And the race doesn't hurt nearly as bad when you do it like that. Like I really like the 100 fly because I don't think it's terribly taxing because of the way that I swim it. And so I wanted to try to tap into that a little bit with the 100 back, because I knew that I have relatively easy speed in my opening 50, right? So I was like, okay, how can I expend like as little energy as possible and then be able to come home like a rocket? Because that's how you go 57-1. That's how you break a world record. And so I knew that that's what I needed to do. Did I execute that? I don't think I did perfectly. I think all the stars aligned so well at trials, and I was trying to replicate that again. And I can kind of tell how my race is going to go, like the last 15, 20 meters of the race. I can tell if I gave too much in the first 50, or if I hit the 50 just right, or if I didn't try hard enough on the first 50, because I always, if I did too much, I hit a wall every time at like the 35 meter mark. And it's like everything just collapses. And in that race, it really started to. It wasn't the worst it's ever felt coming home, but it was like, oh, shoot, like I didn't quite do what I wanted to do. And like, that's okay. I think that's part of the learning process. And I think I obviously really went for it, gave my best effort. And I'm proud of the way that I focused on myself and didn't get lost in what I was doing. Because I had a tendency for a long time to add time in my final. Because it's easy to go fast in the semi, right? When you know that there's no medal on the line, all you have to do is get a lane in the final, just make top 8, like nothing matters. And so it would always be so easy for me to rip in semis and just do something so fast and then really lock up in the final because I let the nerves and the pressure get to me. And I didn't do that there. I was slowest in the prelim and then faster in the semi and then fastest in the final, which is something that I've really, really been trying hard to work on. So I was obviously disappointed with the silver, but I was really, really trying to focus on all the things that I did well. And when I went through and looked at everything that I did well, I realized that it was a pretty considerable amount of things that I was proud of. And so I was just like, I have to focus on that because And then again, going back to what I said earlier about like, it's important to be hungry, but you also want to, you know, feel proud of yourself, feel some satisfaction, be content, and not always just beat yourself up for what you didn't do. Cause yeah, it's a sport. So that was me in that race. Those are my thoughts.
100 meter races are such a puzzle. You know, it's hard to figure out where that fine line is to hold the easy speed. And then, you know, when you watch the race footage, it really stands out when you're 100 back world record of trials and you close the last 15 so strong. And like, you can try to replicate that or go, okay, like the trap I think that's easy to fall into is, okay, what was I feeling like? How do I go out exactly the same way so that I replicate the same feeling, instead of just like, that's not what got you to that point. Yes, you can go in with a plan, but when you have like a great swim, as you have it many times in your career, and we all have as swimmers, like having a best time. Every time you go a best time, it's like now you're thinking about, what did I do that felt so good in that one? And sometimes I just find that to be like, it can kind of get in your head a little bit later on when you're like, okay, I just need to do that thing again. And then it's like, well, then it kind of throws you off if you can't replicate that exact same feeling. Oh, it doesn't feel as easy this first 50 or, you know, and then, I get to the last 15 and I don't feel like amazing like I did, you know, closing it out. So I just find that to be like a little bit tricky. And it's like some of the art that comes with the sport of swimming, you know?
Yeah, no, it is interesting. And I think too, like, it's important to compare yourself, but also compare yourself to yourself. But what you were saying, like, oh, if it doesn't feel as easy as like it did that one time, right? Or like if it hurts more coming home than it did like that one time when everything went perfect. It's not that I feel like it could be easy then for you to like give up and be like, oh shoot, I did it wrong. Like I'm going to give in to the pain, like blah, blah, blah. And that's not what I'm doing at all. And I guess I just wanted to like make sure that was known. Like, it's not like if it doesn't feel the way that I want it to, or if I can tell that I didn't quite execute it perfectly, that then I just kind of throw in the towel and I'm like, shoot, I'm really just gonna like, I still do my best to push through and like find another gear, because everything's up here, right? Like even if you feel one way, your mind feels a different way. But I guess it's more of a like, I'm trying to become more bodily aware of like what I'm doing. Cause you know, like during the races, you can't see the clock or anything. So you really have to go based on feel. And that's what I've tried to tap more into. But yeah, it has no gauge over whether I'm like being like, shoot, like it doesn't feel the way I want it to. So like, that's it, it's over. But it's just something that I try to pay more attention to now, if that makes sense.
Now, what kind of swimmer are you now in terms of the big meets needing or having the feedback from your coach? With, you know, your primary coach not being on the staff, what was that relationship like? How much did you need it? Were you pretty much on automatic pilot at that point? Or, you know, how was Todd, Bob, Regan interaction going?
Yeah, it was good. We had a good plan set up, and luckily France's rules are pretty lax. And so Bob was able to still communicate with me, Drew, Chase, all the swimmers, Hubi from Hungary. All of his swimmers. So he was still able to communicate with us, which was really good. But yeah, Todd really had my back too, like at camp, which I appreciate. He was good at communicating with me and hyping me up when I needed to. Coach Carol was really there for me too. She was the one who was delivering me all my practices. She got me paced if I needed to. She was just there to talk to if I needed someone to talk to. So I think I was really well taken care of, to be honest with you. But Bob was very attentive, to give him credit. He had so many things on his plate at that meet, and he was very good at giving everyone what they needed. I never felt neglected or anything. Like I expected him to have a lot less time for me than he did. Like he was always there watching my warm up, always there if I needed to do something pace. Like I saw him every single time before I swam. And after too. So it was great, honestly. Like I didn't expect it to be as good as it was.
That's good. And I bet it was difficult for him. I don't know how he manages it at all. Especially with a lot of controversy with the Australian coach coaching the South Korean, you know, even Chalmers had issues. So yeah, it was, I don't know how people handle that. How are you training now? At Texas, are you directly under Bob all the time, or do you sometimes go off with one of the assistants? Do you know what it will be when you go across there? Would it be full-time Bob, or would you sometimes be going? Because he's so busy, he's now head coach of a new program.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
no idea. I mean,
Yeah.
I left Stanford and went to ASU for Bob.
Yeah.
So I obviously want to be under Bob. I really trust Eric Posgay as well. I've spent a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
time with him at OTC, and he and Bob have very similar training philosophies.
Mhm.
But ultimately, yeah, I turned pro for Bob and Bob's philosophy, and so obviously I want to continue swimming under him. I think that's my plan. Like that's I know what I want to do leading into Paris. It's just this is like a job for me, ultimately, and like I know what I respond to best, and it's him. So that's my plan. But we'll see. Who knows? I'm willing to be flexible, but also like, yeah, I want to be able to advocate for myself too. And it's like, yeah, we'll see.
I'm sure there were some things that you were aware of, not to, like, throw shade, but like maybe it was a fit standpoint, but like while you're at Stanford and there you were looking for, like something different, and then the evolution to ASU came and trained with Bob. I'm just like, there's a time where you can put a lot of trust into the coach has the plan. Okay, I show up and I do the workout because I know that, that's their job and my job is to give the best effort. But I think at this point, you probably have a much better picture of what that specificity looks like that has translated to your success. You had it in early part of your career, and, it evolves over time. So I'm curious, like, if you had to write, your plan for the next month and have it be, leading you in the right direction for the results, like, could you write it? Do you have like a good sense of what that is now? Or do you still need to like, no, he's got the plan?
I definitely prefer letting someone else have the plan and I'm just the puppet. Honestly, I think I could do it. I think I could write my own plan, but I have the motivation to follow through with it. I don't think so. I think I need authority to be like, this is what you're doing. Otherwise, I'm going to cut corners and like barter with myself. So yeah, I think I could, because I think Bob has like a routine, I think, and he has a flow of the week. And I think I wouldn't do it as well as he does, but I think I could BS a similar flow and like write out sets that like resemble-ish like what he's able to come up with. But no, I'd vastly prefer someone to do it for me, aka him. So that's what I like a lot more. I just struggle with self-motivation at times. At least I know that about myself. So I need to be training with a group or training under a coach. Like if I'm just doing it on my own, or if I know that I don't have to do something, then I'm not going to want to do it. Like even being here in Tempe, I know that I don't have to be training right now. And so I'm here for, like to socialize and to hang out and to get some time under the sun and to see people and to like start to get back in shape. But even this morning, for example, I woke up at 5:30 to go to lift and I sat in bed. I snoozed for like 12 minutes, which I never do when I know that I have to be somewhere. But since I knew that I didn't have to go lift, I was like, if I skip lift, no one's going to say a word to me. Like, I don't have to be there. So I was like, like, should I just go back to sleep right now? But I ended up not. I finally got out of bed. But yeah, so it's stuff like that. So I could write the plan, but I shouldn't because it wouldn't end well. I would get like a C in terms of like attendance and effort, probably.
Yeah, but you just like that evolves, like shows. I mean, you're only 22, but like that shows a level of maturity that that you now, I think, would, if I were you, it would give me a lot of confidence that at this point you're like, okay, well, yeah, I trust the plan. I would rather have somebody write it too.
Yeah,
I always did, but
totally.
to like have a better sense of, okay, yeah, I know what I need and I know that this works, and having command of that would put me in a much better place. Look, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I was trying to look up when you were on the show last. So you're on episode 107. We're 193 of you now. So maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I'm noticing something different in how you've been talking. And I also noticed it in a lot of your post-race interviews. I'm seeing a lot more, you're being a lot more open and honest and aware. And I'm not going to call it mature because we never mature. But no, it just seems you have a more different perspective to how you're talking about yourself, your philosophy. So I want to talk non-swimming. I want to talk about how, what do you, and all the questions we've asked you at US Opens and stuff, I realized they weren't about swimming. They're about other stuff. And I like that. And I want to know, do you make a deliberate effort to disconnect, to not be a swimmer and be a Regan when you're not with cap and goggles on? Is that a deliberate effort? And have you seen that progression in the last few months or last 3 years?
Oh, yeah. So I talked with you guys in my freshman dorm at Stanford last.
Ooh.
And yeah, like you said, very different place in life. And I think I was a lot more guarded and I didn't give as much depth with my answers. I could give good answers, but I think, and I don't, BSing sounds bad, but I wasn't being completely forthcoming with my answers. I think I was giving like media trained answers and like what I think people wanted to hear, like what was easy and what sounded polished. And I think I can still do that, but while also being like way more, open and honest about everything. But to answer your question about like separating my swimming self from my actual self, that's something that was a gigantic work in progress for me. And I think I've seen a lot of big strides with it this past year, like with the Bob moving to Texas change, with me getting mono, for example, just all of these variables that have changed in my life this year, I think has made me realize that there is a lot more to life than swimming. And like, I can still perform very well at a high level with all of these things going crazy in my life. Because I used to be so, like I said, routine oriented. And I was like, okay, I'm going to wake up at this time every day. I need to have the same breakfast every day. I leave for practice at exactly this minute every day. I shouldn't go do this activity because I have practice tomorrow. And like, I don't want to make myself tired for practice tomorrow. Or like, oh, should I have ice cream at 9:30 p.m. if I have 6 a.m. practice? Oh, maybe not, because I don't want to feel gross the next day. I used to be like that 100% to a T, and swimming ruled my life. I was a swimmer first and everything else second. Which was fine at the time because I think it was all I knew. But I think as I've explored like being more lax with myself, I've become a lot happier and more satisfied with my swimming, because swimming doesn't hold as high of a stake as it used to, which then I think in turn has made me better at swimming, which is kind of like an oxymoron, but it's true. So yeah, and I think it was just things like the mono flipping my life upside down and not being able to swim for weeks and having to like completely change my routine with that. And then Bob up and leaving and having to go to Texas immediately. And then me having to fly back and forth from Tempe and Austin multiple times and missing practices here and there just because of like emotional problems in that side of my life when I was going through that big change. And just realizing that like if swimming gets put on the back burner occasionally, it is not the end of the world, and it might even be a good thing. Because swimming was of course my priority this spring, but there were so many other things that I was juggling and dealing with this spring that it really put so much less pressure on spring, because I was putting so much more of my energy into dealing with these other things. And it worked out very well, honestly, just because it was like, wow, I'm so much more than a swimmer. I have X, Y, and Z going on in my life too, that I'm having to figure out and navigate. And like, how beautiful is that? Because yeah, it just took away so much pressure and made me not feel like I was just a swimmer for once. It gave me so much more, I'm trying to find the right word. It's not depth, but like so many more like areas in my life. I was just broadening my horizons in so many different ways. And it was really cool to see. So such a huge work in progress. And I think I'm still trying to find my groove with that. But yes, I do. I love swimming. I always will, but it will never hold as much stake as it once did, as it did when I talked to you guys last.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I almost wonder if I had this mentality my freshman year at Stanford, I wonder if I would have stayed and like figured it out, because I was like, swimming's not going well. I need to get out of here. I think if I had a different perspective like I do now, I wonder if I would have continued. But also I know that I wouldn't have this perspective now if I hadn't left there and then gone through everything that I went through since. So it's interesting, but yeah.
Totally.
I have a number of friends who done well at the Olympics and medaled, and in this October, November after the Olympics, they go through a massive depression. They're not front page of the headline of the newspapers anymore. They're not getting sponsor calls. Nobody knows who they are at all. And they don't have that gap. And then when they retire from swimming, they are that obsession that they had about this one thing, they don't know what to do with it. And it goes into some different places and they become somebody else. And they were so not balanced. And speaking to Bob a couple of weeks ago helped me personally. I understand the attraction to Bob Bowman a lot more was when he talks about, just do your work, chop wood, carry water. Just when you have the super highs, just keep doing your work because that gets you through the super lows as well. It takes you back to that balance and that way you're going. So, and it's a journey and you're still going slowly. So I appreciate it. And I understand the attraction to a coach like Bob Bowman who has you do your work. So yeah, I see it.
Yeah, he gets it. I mean, he's a psych major, right? So he really understands the ins and outs. And I read his book, The 10 Golden Rules, and he talked about like after 2008 with Michael, when they got the 8 golds and he was just kind of like, shoot, what next? Like, what do I do? What do I do now? And he felt kind of lost for a long time. And that was so eye-opening to me because I was just like, that can happen so easily. Like you're always searching for what's next. And then when you reach like the pinnacle of like what you're trying to accomplish, it can really leave you feeling lost. And so I think that too is part of my mentality and the like always looking at the things that I did well instead of always being hungry for more. You can be motivated and want more without letting that rule your life. So yeah.
What's the title of your book going to be?
TBD. No idea.
All right. Hey, what are you watching, reading, or listening to right now?
I haven't watched. Okay. I've been watching like movies at night with my friends. What's like the last movie we watched? Oh my gosh. So my friend really likes horror movies and like thrillers and stuff like that. And I'm not a fan, but we watched Megan last week, like that doll movie, doll horror movie. Yeah, it was okay. Reading, I'm in a book club with my sister and my stepsister that we haven't met since May, so we're in trouble there. But we should be reading a book for our book club. And I'm also in an ASU book club, and we're supposed to be reading a book called Just for the Summer. I have no idea what it's about, but I can report back if you'd like. I think I'm supposed to read it by the end of September. So that's what I got there. And then in terms of music, gosh, I really fluctuate with like my interests. I really got into like 80s music when I fell in love with Stranger Things way back when. And sometimes I'm in the mood for like, I don't know, like rap, like Megan Thee Stallion, Post Malone, Travis Scott, I really like too. Gosh, I like Blank too. But then also I'm in the mood for like Sabrina Carpenter, Ariana Grande, Tate McRae. So I really fluctuate. My favorite thing to do is go into my 700 songs and my liked songs. You know how on Spotify you just have like liked, and I just hit shuffle. And so I'll just have like 80 different genres going on. So I enjoy that. I think that's fun.
So if you're the DJ, nobody knows what to expect then.
Nobody knows what to expect. But whenever I'm on aux, people are like, this is pretty good. But they will be like, okay, that was a mega vibe switch. And I'm like, yeah. But people always sing along to what I put on. So I do okay.
Yeah. The vibe switch, the genre switch always throws me. I would have a tough time with Regan's playlist, I think. Hey, did you see, I don't know if you saw this, but there was this thing in track and field where these two guys, Mondo Duplantis, the pole vault world record holder, and Carson Warholm, the 400-meter hurdles world record holder, they just did this head-to-head race, and they met at 100-meter hurdles. They just did a 100-meter dash on the track. They did it at like a Diamond League meet. And it got me thinking, like, how cool would that be if swimming had something like that, where like two people who swam totally different events ordinarily came and met in the middle and did some race? Who would you want to race, and what would you race them in? That would be like a good race.
I think I'd want to do like 100 breast for sure.
Against like Ledecky
but I don't
or something?
know. I think she'd kill me. I really do. She's pretty good at breaststroke. Because, okay, my fastest long course 100 breast ever, it was at altitude, but I was on one at this camp. So it was a good time. I was 114. So I don't know who would be a good match for me. I don't know. someone obviously who's like not the best breaststroker. I mean, names are popping into my head. Like I was like Katie Grimes, but she's obviously good at the 4IM. Claire Weinstein, maybe. Catherine Burkhoff, I could try. Those are the three names that came into my head.
How
I don't
about
know
Gretchen?
why.
Can Gretchen do 100 breast?
Gretchen would murder me in 100
Okay.
breast. I guarantee it.
Pullouts?
I guarantee it. Yeah, pullouts. And she's just so athletic. I think she could she's very good at it short course. And I know that that's a different game than long course. But yes, I'm confident that she would beat me. Dude, I don't know. Phoebe's good at breaststroke. I can do Phoebe. Who knows?
Okay, but I think here's the thing. We need people like you to think about this kind of stuff, though, because it takes like buy-in from the top level of sport and the athletes. And I would totally want to watch that if there was like a sideshow happening at, the Tier Pro Swim series meets, next season. So like,
I want to bring back Mystery IM. I would do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
But
Great,
that's fair.
let's do it.
Yeah, I'll do 100 breast against anyone who's not good at breaststroke. Like, quote me. I'll do it at any Tier Pro. We'll enter the 100 free, and we can just do it. Yeah.
I think drop dead sprint. Simone will beat you because drop dead sprinters can't breaststroke except for Flo Manidu, who can, which is weird to see him do that.
I've watched her do breaststroke sets.
Oh no, she can do it
with me, like in Bob at ASU, and yeah, she's ripped like 35s, 50 breaststrokes from a push before.
Ooh.
I can't do that.
Oh no.
So she's good. Like these people are good. I can't match it. Sometimes like my breaststroke is so all over the place. But yeah, no. Everyone you guys have said I think would annihilate me, and I'm not just saying that to like be humble. Like actually. Sucks.
Or a guy, Brian, didn't you try to race Mika Lawrence in a race? Wasn't that that story?
yeah, I did. Yeah, and I won. Come on.
Okay,
but we did have a bet.
She was
but she was an actual breaststroker, like an elite 100 breaststroker and 200 breaststroker, and I was like, oh, I think I can beat you in 100 breast. She was like, no way, you can't beat it. But it was short course, and it was like the Gretchen effect, like pullouts, short course. Yeah, she didn't expect that I was going to go 56. So come on. But that's what's fun about it because I didn't know either. So it was like, I don't know, we just did a Masters meet. But anyway, follow at Social Kick Swim on Instagram and let us know who Regan needs to race, what event, and then we'll give that feedback to Regan and we'll make it happen. Regan, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Enjoy all of your travels and settling back from Tempe to Austin. We'll look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I always really enjoy these conversations, and it was fun to like compare from our last talk to now.
Yeah, likewise. Well, the pleasure's ours. That's it for this episode of Social Kick. We'll see you guys next time. See you. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're enjoying Social Kick, tell your friends about it. And be sure to tell us what you liked by leaving a comment and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Social Kick. And you can find all of our content on our website at thesocialkick.com.